Avengers! Assemble.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Excelsior, the world's #1 Marvel's Avengers podcast. I'm your director, Christian Buckley, joined as always by the Apex legend, Jack Martin.
Excelsior, Christian. A more substantial week for Marvel's Avengers, I would say. We have a decent amount to discuss, so I'm looking forward to that.
We absolutely do, because there is some brand new systemic change coming to Marvel's Avengers this month, and I think there's an interesting discussion to be had, about the roadmap and things like that. So, for sure, there's a lot to discuss when it comes to this game that we both love. Do you say you love it?
Yeah, I would say I unabashedly love it. I would have
Yeah.
to put that disclaimer in front of there because, like you, and I'm sure most of our listeners, we know there's so many problems with this game, and it's very far from being a perfect game. Obviously, not too many games are like that, but a lot of issues with this game, but good bones, I would say.
For sure, absolutely. And I'll say this right now. We have a thing on youtube.com/joyclicks where this video podcast is hosted called the Hall of Game, where we award games being the greatest of all time, right? If you ever brought Marvel's Avengers, I promise you right now I would give you 5 points.
Yeah, well, I would only get 5 points.
That's
So
fair
I do
enough.
appreciate it. Would be quite the risky maneuver. Hard to defend this being in any sort of Hall of Game, but certainly holds a special place in our hearts, I would say.
Yeah, just wait until that Black Panther expansion's out, and then everybody's gonna be hopping on the bandwagon. Kevin Diaz is gonna bring it next time in the fall. Just seeing this Black Panther expansion.
Yeah, Greg Miller from Kind of Funny has they do like yearly bets on the their games cast, and he has a bet I think with Imran Khan, where he's saying by the end of 2021, people will look at Marvel's Avengers and be like, okay, that's in an okay state, which is like. It's the funniest like bar to set, but it's just the sort of reality with this game. But I think that is quite likely, especially with Black Panther coming out.
Absolutely, and hopefully it won't be that far away. So, speaking of, why don't we talk about what is upcoming with the game this week? We'll kick off the show the way we normally do, with Fury's report going over everything new to the game this week. First up, the power level missions. Low power level, Mistaken Identity. I believe that is the Thor thing in Scandinavia, where it's Loki Thor. Every chance I'll get, Crystal, if you're listening, because this is the best Avengers the #1 Avengers podcast.
And the best.
And the best, okay. You said
I'm sure there's some great ones out there.
No, yeah, absolutely. I would love a follow-up, I'd love to see Loki in this game. Love to see what he looks like. Love to see what his relationship with Thor is like. I know there was that prequel comic with Loki in there for like a split second, but
Oh yeah, I do recall that.
yeah.
Those are good. We never really talked about that much.
Yeah, I remember doing I think was the solo episode I did, but
Right.
doing the recap of those. I liked them, it was cool. It was a good way to set the tone. I learned about Jonathan Majors.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
exactly. That's the first time I got any backstory with Taskmaster, because Black Widow would have.
Jonathan.
That would have been out by
Yeah.
the time this game came out, but obviously with the pandemic that shifted everything. So that was my first introduction.
For some reason, I always got this confused. Jonathan Majors is an actor who is going to be playing Kang the Conqueror. Anthony Masters is Taskmaster.
Oh, gotcha.
But you knew who I meant, so that's great.
I heard Masters, and that's really all that registered.
Sure, okay. The high power level mission for the week is Global Presence. Once again, if you're looking to get guaranteed gear drops from anything, you can do those. The Harm Room Challenge this week will net you Black Widow 2014 number 13, continuing the trend of the Black Widow month. And in the marketplace this week, Jack, we have some interesting new stuff. What's going on over there?
We sure do. So, continuing the Avengers Endgame trend, we have Hawkeye getting his Avengers Endgame outfit. And it is a black leather jacket and pants with some gold accents, along the knees, the neck area, the wrists, that sort of thing. And just like Black Widow's Avengers Endgame skin, by the way, they both look very detailed and they look good. But just like Black Widow's skin, I told you last week this is how they developed it. They started at the feet, they got to the shoulders area, and then they said we gotta release this. Just slap the default head on this thing and get it out the door. He's got a clean shaven head almost, got a buzz cut going. He doesn't have the weird half mohawk thing that he did in Avengers Endgame, which I would argue is the most recognizable feature of that particular look for Hawkeye. So, like with the Black Widow Avengers Endgame skin, getting a little bit of criticism from fans, I would say. But overall, they got 90% of it right, and I think it looks really good. Obviously, we got the purple arrows and bow, which you and I aren't a fan of, but, they got most of it right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the detail on it is great. To begin with, in Endgame, I never liked the Ronin look for Hawkeye, personally. Just in the movie, like, hair aside, I think the outfit's, like, whatever. Most of Hawkeye's MCU stuff, I think, is whatever. But, like, I like the half sleeve in Civil War. I like the long little duster he's got in Age of Ultron. So, like, there are some looks I like. Ronin's not one of them, but yeah, there's definitely been an outcry. Hairgate is continuing on the subreddit, and like, I understand where people were like, "Hey, you know what? I understood the Black Widow thing. Could you at least have given?" Oh, excuse me.
He almost died right there.
Yeah. Could you at least have given him like the hair from like the Matt Fraction looking Hawkeye in the game? And like,
Yeah.
I understand that path. I think obviously at some point we might reach a point where they just let you select the head because there's different options for characters.
Like a Lego character.
Yeah, like maybe we get to that point. I could see that happening. I don't know how hard that would be, but that's the fan mock-ups I've seen all the time. So, as far as the endgame skins go, like, again, I'm holding out for either. For Thor, absolutely. I might get the Cap one because I like his endgame look, but yeah. What about you? Is the needle moved at all?
Not really. These are, aside from Black Widow, who is one of my level 150 characters, Hawkeye really isn't someone I play as, and I feel like I already have. This is technically a Ronin skin, I suppose, and I already have a Ronin skin that I kind of like a little bit more than this one. It's like complete with the mask and all that.
Right.
So I would probably just rather wear that one over this. So I'd rather just save my credits for, like what you'd said. I'd probably hold out for an Iron Man skin. We'll talk about it later, but there's more endgame skins on the way at some point. So whatever those end up being, whether it's just their basic look in the movie or like you mentioned last week, the Quantum Realm suits, I would probably wait out for something like that.
I agree wholeheartedly. Interesting to note that Widow's still in the shop. I don't know if that's just because this is Black Widow month or if they eventually want to reach a point where the entire shop is all 6 and then they'll wipe completely. But if you missed out on Widow and you still want to get the Widow skin, you can for the foreseeable future, I guess.
That sounds right, because there's something to the idea of having skins available for like a limited amount of time. And we see that with this game and with games like Avengers. I don't know about if Destiny has skins, but
Fortnite does for sure.
Fortnite definitely does, and it's always a limited time thing, because scarcity is something that helps drive people, in fear of missing out, helps drive people to make purchases like under deadline. So I agree. I think you're right. It will probably amass to, hey, these are all the Avengers Endgame skins. They're all available now. You have like a week to decide how many you want, and then they're gone. And maybe they'll be recycled at some point or another. But yeah, I think you're right.
For like a long-term thing, do you see maybe them being added to the characters' permanent pages? Because I think that this is a skin that like people will always want to buy, right? Like, I see where you're coming from, like the Nintendo strategy of like, hey, you don't know when it's coming back. If it's coming back, buy it now. So like I understand that, but I feel like in this game, which is so heavily criticized for the cosmetics, right? Like, we have permanent stocks for some of these characters on their own individual marketplace tabs, right? Like, why not just throw their Endgame MCU look up there, right? Like, do you think that would be more beneficial long term if more people funnel in with future expansions?
Maybe, but I also think that you treat the skins like a content update, like a, we've talked about how like their announcements for this game are essentially treated like content updates, just because there's not too much, new content added to this game in at like a frequent pace.
Right.
So I think there's something to say about them announcing like an endgame skin, like they just did, and really drawing attention to that and saying, hey, this is only available for a short amount of time. Get in, make your purchase, and get out. Because I think you're totally right. There will always be interest in people coming in and wanting to get the Avengers Endgame skins for these characters. But I think just having that timeline on it is always beneficial to making more purchases, I feel, because when you add like a level of stress to a purchase, for some reason, maybe this is just me, there's always like a level of like anxiety and like I need to get this before it goes away. Um, so I feel like that might be a strategy that they're looking to do. But you're totally right. It very well could be a permanent staple on the character pages, which I think would be more user friendly.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see what the future holds for them. But as of now, it seems like either every week or every other week we'll get a new character drop. But currently, we have some other stuff because we are building up to the Red Room Challenge takeover at the moment. There is these skins for Kate, Iron Man, Kamala, and Cap in the shop at the moment. Um, Out of these, I like Kate's because it's like her Young Avengers look, with like the little tailcoat and the little goggles and the long hair. But haven't been playing Kate a ton lately, so I'll probably pass on all these. But how do you like the Iron Man skin? Because I know he's your guy.
Yeah, I actually went in to see what's up. I think it's cool. I don't think we've gotten a lot of like straight up black armor Iron Man skins.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gotten a few, but this is like very stark, like full 100% black armor paint. So I think that's cool, and with some red accents and some red eyes. So it looks cool. These are 900 credits. I don't think I always like weigh the options, like how often would I actually use this, and I don't know
Yeah,
if I'd necessarily use this all that much. So I'm probably not going to go for it. I actually really liked Kamala's skin. I,
yeah,
I I was really surprised because we looked at the main image, and then on the blog that they have every week, for this week they had like the punch in views of each individual character's skins, and Kamala's just looks like so natural to her, and it like it's a full like bodysuit, and some of her skins I'm like not the biggest fan of, but I think this one looks really great, and it's probably my favorite of the bunch.
yeah. I think hers is right up there for me with Kate's. I think it's a great looking outfit, and it stands out in a way that I think most of her skins so far really don't. And I think that's good because I think most of the characters could use a little boon of a bit more variety, in terms of what their normal look is. And like you said, with the Iron Man full black armor, like that's part of that progression for each character. So it's good to see, even if I'm not excited about buying them. But hopefully, this leads to a point where there is one that I am excited to buy.
Yeah. Speaking of buying these, a lot of people upset about through Skya protocols and these skins being sort of locked behind a paywall,
Yeah,
which is weird. I feel like this game with its community finds itself at like opposing ends at some points where they're
hmm
like, we don't really care about skins, and then they care about skins so much because they're cool and they're locked behind a paywall. And to an extent, I think some skins should be released as earnable skins where
I
you can
agree.
go, and we've talked about this, go through a mission, maybe like we were particularly talking about the Red Room takeover, go through the challenges there and unlock a skin. That would be cool. But for the most part, skins are going to be purchasable. That's just an undeniable fact of how skins are added to video games. We've seen that with countless games. So it's not really surprising to me, and it's not really that big of a deal because at the end of the day, they're optional. And these skins, in my opinion, aren't the best of the best, right? We're gonna get the MCU inspired ones, which are the best of the best. So I feel like the energy is kind of being wasted, in my opinion, from all the outcry.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would also, I think, enjoy if since we have a whole month building up to the Red Room takeover, I think it would have been cool if there was at least one earnable skin, like the white Black Widow outfit from her film, right? Like
Yeah,
something that you can build up towards and reward as like a not maybe like a title. I think they should probably introduce those at some point, but like an earnable title, a really special nameplate, or a skin that you can use to show off in the future. Like when you're raiding with randoms in the future, be like, queue up with your skin that you earned from that event. Maybe they don't have it. And it's like, wow, this is a dedicated player who really likes this game. Like, it sounds stupid, but that's the reason cosmetics exist in multiplayer games, right? So
yeah,
I I understand that they probably want the best of the best to be the purchasable ones, which fair, that's the monetization choice they decided a long time ago. But I'm with you that these I think they're good, but I feel like you'd probably get more people showing them off if they were earnable for this event, like charge for the best of the best. This is not that, so what's the harm?
yeah, totally.
So we'll see what the future brings with cosmetics. We'll see what the next set is. If it is a Western one, got to see what that Thor one looks like because I might buy it. So,
Yeehaw,
hell
yeehaw.
yeah. But that brings us to the update portion of the War Table blog for the week. So, updates. Currently, they are testing the first Omega level threat mission to ensure the final fight is challenging for players. Now, Jack, I believe last week on the dev stream, it was confirmed that the first of the threats is not the cloning lab. So,
Right.
Super Adaptoid fight, we were worried. It's next. How you feel?
I hope it's honestly like I said this last week. Wouldn't be upset if that just sort of disappeared from the old roadmap. Not that it's in there right now, but they did mention that around the time of Kate Bishop's DLC, which was in the DLC. We all played it. We all fought the Super Adaptoid. I'm very confused why that just wasn't a villain sector. Also, it seems like the from the phrasing that Omega level threat missions sound very similar to villain sectors. Like their phrasing of final fight just makes me think we're probably going to do a few things, maybe hold down this sector, maybe defeat this enemy squad, and then get to the final fight, which would be the Super Adaptoid. And that just sort of sounds like a villain sector. So, yeah, very strange.
Yeah, quite unfortunate, I think. I mean, I'll play it, it's new content,
Yeah,
so the Omega level threat version, I'm sure we'll probably have to squad up to handle it. The villain sector version, I will probably play a few times and then look at it like I look at Taskmaster, but excited for anything new at this point because we'll get to it, but the Ruskaya protocols is about what we expected.
yeah.
They also mentioned in the update section that there will be new and more animated nameplates coming, much like the Raka Braka one, which is currently in the game, I believe now. It is the one of Clint Barton from the Matt Fraction comic, naked, diving away from a window over the bed with the Hawkeye face over his junk.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
We talked about this when we sort of expressed our criticism with the quote unquote animated nameplates from the Tachyon Anomaly event, which were just static images with like little red sparks on the left and right side. And that continued with the Ruskaya Protocol nameplates, animated nameplates. But this is I think what we were expecting, where
Yes.
like there's an animated image on the nameplate, and I think that is very exciting. And I will totally be rocking some animated ones that are more dynamic like this.
I wholeheartedly agree. I don't know if this is a purchasable. I imagine it will be because I know some you can earn from the events, some are you have to buy in the marketplace, but I think they're like 300.
Even
Again,
100, I think.
okay.
Well, these ones might be more
Yeah,
because they are animated.
I'll still probably be like picky and choosy about which ones I want to go in on, but
Hmm.
absolutely. If they're just basically making motion comics for uh, the nameplates that are going to be animated and it's maybe an iconic like comic panel for a character, like hell yeah, that's awesome. Like I'm sure there's a really sick comic panel of like Thor, sort of like he does in the film, right? His first movie, like unworthy Thor taking Mjolnir back up in the rain or something like that'd be so cool to have as a nameplate, right? Like I'm sure there's plenty of awesome options for animated nameplates to basically just come right off the page of the comics. So I'm glad they're doing that.
Yeah, totally. And I imagined when you were describing that, even just like the Mjolnir sitting, that was a weird way to pronounce it. Mjolnir sitting on the ground, like sort of indented into the ground, and just flashes of lightning streaking around it, like
Yeah.
illuminating
Hmm.
it. Just basically just have like a GIF, you know.
Yeah.
That would be so cool. And it again, it's not a big giant thing, but it's just a nice little addition to spice up waiting in the helicarrier each time. You know.
Absolutely. Last one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Uh it's a long, very long image, right? It's just a nameplate. It's pretty long. On
Yep.
one, it's silhouette, nice little blue, maybe like a lightning blue background, but it's a silhouette of Thor with his hand outreached. Mjolnir's on the other side. It just comes into his hand, he catches it, and then he throws it
Oh,
back and forth. How cool would that be? That'd be so good.
that's perfect because
Yeah.
I'm picturing the Thor nameplate where he's like streaking across space,
Yeah.
and he looks like a streak of lightning, I suppose.
Hmm.
So yeah, a similar framing. That would be really cool. I think there's definitely a lot of potential for these, and again, they are sort of like silly small things, and they're cosmetic, so they don't really matter. But it would be a nice little nice little thing to see.
I agree. The last thing on the updates for this week is that as of today, as of recording, the dev stream that will be happening later this evening, they're going to be going in on the champion leveling system. So why don't we get into Stark Realities, Jack? Because we got some new content coming up very quickly for this game.
Oh yeah,
So we'll build to the champion XP because I think that's the biggest thing to talk about this week.
yeah,
Currently, there's an updated roadmap. Now, the Cosmic Cube event, which is going to be, as we said last week, featuring content that is unlike anything else in the game so far in terms of objectives and just structure. It's also going to be a pretty, they're making it seem like pivotal story moment in terms of what's going on with Monica and potentially the Kree. Sort of resolution to the very, very major hanging thread from the end of Future Imperfect. That is going to be releasing in June alongside more MCU skins, probably continuing this Endgame line. Now,
yeah.
originally, I believe this was the first of all the roadmap events from the first roadmap that said summer and beyond. So, seeing that it is pretty consecutively following up a monthly thing on this roadmap, seeing this in June, how does that make you feel about the consistency of releases for the game for the rest of this year, I guess?
It does seem like we are getting a monthly update this year, which is good. Starting in March with Hawkeye, we
Mm-hmm.
had the Hawkeye update. We had Tachyon Anomaly in April, which was admittedly not too much, but was still something. We're getting the Red Room Takeover with the prelude in with the Ruskaya protocols right now in May, and then like what you said, Cosmic Cube in June. Next up would be the Wasteland Patrol, which doesn't seem like it's too much. It's just the ability to basically free roam in the Wasteland sector, and that it seems like if we're following this trajectory, like what you said, we would probably get that in July. Um, and then I think they have some breathing room with War for Wakanda because that's obviously the bigger expansion and it's the biggest thing that will be updated for the game as of now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think August is where they're shooting for,
Mm-hmm.
And I think September is probably more of like a landing pad if they need it, if they need the
Sure.
time. So, yeah, it seems like we are getting like consistent drops, which is very, it's kind of unexpected from this game at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they definitely want to have War for Wakanda out before year one ends, which would be the week of September 3rd, I think. I forget because of like, there was the early access version that I paid $70 for.
Yeah.
Um, so I think they would absolutely want to end year one with War for Wakanda. I think that would be such a great just boon for the community, and I would personally feel very good entering year two off the heels of what is hopefully going to be an awesome new area to explore, a great new character in T'Challa, and a raid. Like, that I think would be a very, very strong ending point and launching point, because I think, like you said, having wiggle room, I think like maybe trying this to get this out by August, which I assume is the plan if we're doing this monthly schedule. I think they buy September to just be like an off month, because it is like the
Hmm.
celebration of year one. Everybody's raiding for a while. New players are coming in. Maybe some cool year one nameplates. I doubt there'd be skins, but like something like that. That's very much like what we're seeing in March and April. Do that for September, and then maybe around October is when we can see something like a Spider Man or learn about the next character or two that's not Spider-Man. So
Yeah.
I personally feel really good seeing that the Cosmic Cube is next month because that makes me hopeful about, like you said, Wasteland and Black Panther, which, again, I could have seen Black Panther hit November. It still could. But because of this trend and really not expecting Cosmic Cube until like August before this came out, I feel good about the game right now.
I do too. And I agree. I think you kind of have to release War for Wakanda before year one, right? Like, I see a world where they do like a developer update or like the War Table videos, which we haven't seen for, I think, since Hawkeye, maybe.
Not a full
Um,
blown one, yeah.
right. I think we'll see a video of a more self congratulatory um, video, like around the time of the year one launch for this. Be like, this is what happened. We ended it with a bang with War for Wakanda. Here's what's next. And I think that would be, I agree, I think that would be a really good win for the game. Obviously, there's been an incredible amount of stumbles along the way, and there still are, and there still probably will be some at that point. Um, but I think having the big expansion before the year one mark would be a really great thing for this game. And I think that's what they're trying to do. If it needs more updates and more TLC, it will probably be booted, and that's why they're not giving a release right now because they're not really sure when it will hit. They're probably
Mm-hmm.
targeting August, September, but who knows? Yeah, I agree. I'm feeling more hopeful because we are getting things like this. This is a far cry from uh, October and November, right? In which we were getting very little communication, next to no content at all. Now we have a roadmap. We have monthly content coming out. So I think it's certainly in a much better spot this game than it was even a couple of months ago.
Yeah, which I think is just a good sign for the future because I do feel momentum right now. Even if it's not great, even if there is some controversy with Hairgate and stuff like that, like I do think we're on an upward trend at the moment, right? Because we're building, it feels like we're building, right? Like cosmetics aside, there was tachyon anomalies, which was whatever. At least it was something, being able to do the multiplayer characters all the same person, like that's still a good thing, even if it is too late, maybe. Um, Personally, I think the framing of this month's Red Room Takeover is better handled than the Tachyon one because it makes me at least think there's cooler stuff going on now because of the way it's framed, where Tachyon just felt like, hey, here's this.
Yeah, and
Um,
this is also like technically a month long thing with through Sky protocols, essentially, just being challenges to do, but
yeah.
it still lasts the whole month in a way.
Yeah, which I think is a huge benefit, especially if you have something on the scale of this or Tachyon Anomalies, like make it feel like it's an event at least, you know, the theming of everything, changing the main menu screen, all the outfits. I think that goes a long way in terms of making this feel like an event, not just like a log in this week, it's going to be something different, you know? So I'd say this is still a building process after that. And then next we have this Cosmic Cube event, which is supposedly going to be interesting for the story. The way they talked about it before was like, hey, we can just drop a villain sector with some story updates without a character or hero tied to it whenever we got one. So this is the first instance of that. And then after that, patrols, which again, maybe not going to be too wild, but definitely going to be something welcome because other games like this have that. And then right after that, we have a full blown raid and a new character. So it does to me feel like we are building. So seeing that on a condensed schedule for this year makes me feel hopeful, like we're saying. So
Totally.
very, very happy.
And for a year one, every game as a service stumbles in some
Yeah.
way or another. I think this game did so more than a lot of other games.
Yeah.
And I think it just had a bigger profile because of the name Marvel's Avengers, and there were so many eyes on it, and it just, in a lot of ways, it failed in ways that people looked at and just pointed and laughed at because it was this giant, momentous thing supposedly, and then it just didn't reach a lot of people's expectations, and there was, we talked about all the issues with this game, but I think ironing that out after a year, which I'm confident that they're doing. Even now, I feel like what you said, there is at least some forward progression, certainly. And I think once we get War for Wakanda, there's that's already a huge thing, and I think there's only more great things to come. So I think I was feeling a little dour about this game a couple months ago around the time of Hawkeye, and now I feel a little bit better about the future right now.
Yeah. Just from our tone, Jack, it feels like this is the happiest we've been with this game since launch, maybe. And even launch was just like hey, this story is real cool. So like that's what was carrying it. Like
Yeah. It's funny
yeah.
because there's really not too much. We can't like really go in and play right now, but just
Yeah.
thinking about the possibilities feels good.
And it feels justified, right? It doesn't feel like we're, to me at least, it doesn't feel like I'm reaching for things that are impossible. So,
Totally.
and I think the evidence of that is the surprise new addition to the game, which is just dropping alongside the Red Room Takeover on May 20th. And we did learn as well the takeover is lasting from the 20th to the 31st. So you'll have time to get in there. There's a War Table blog, or sorry, there's a specific blog about this that is posted that has the framing for it. It's talking about Jimmy Woo. It's talking about Yelena. So again, interesting framing, but there are images, like you said. It is a red heart room. You play it solo because of the challenge. So you can look forward to that. We'll probably have more to say about it when it's actually here. But the exciting thing coming alongside this, Champion XP. Now, Jack,
Oh
when you
yeah.
hear that, what do you think of?
Well, I already know what it is, so I can't
Yeah.
really.
But for fun, what do you think of when you hear Champion XP?
Champion XP. I don't know, dude. This is a weird poll. This has nothing to do with anything. But when I hear Champion XP, I think of a weird DLC for Fable 2, in which you fight in this big, like, Coliseum. I don't know. That's a reach and a pull, but it has nothing to do with this game.
Okay.
What do
I
you
respect
What
that.
do you think when you think of Champion XP?
I thought of like Marvel Contest of Champions, like that mobile game. But,
See, that's more of an accurate and appropriate thing to think of.
sure. But what would you do if I told you we're both very wrong? That's not what this is.
I really thought I was gonna be right with that assessment, but I guess not.
I'm sure there were like three people out there that was like, yes, as soon as you said that.
Yeah.
But this is pulled directly from the blog. We'll talk about it after. Currently, when heroes reach the level cap of 50, XP becomes obsolete. With the new champion system, heroes who are level 50 can improve their combat abilities even further. Once a hero reaches level 50, earned XP from that point on is changed to champion XP, which is specific to each hero. Earning enough champion XP will increase your champion level, which is marked on your nameplate. Whenever a hero levels up their champion level, they'll earn a champion skill point, which is used to unlock a multitude of champion skills. Champion skills are on their own separate interface and take the form of boosts to your damage, perk chance activation, heroic charge rate, etc. These are permanent increases, so every champion skill matters. Thoughts, Jack?
I think this is really good. I think you mentioned the possibility of doing this, and maybe the developers at Crystal Dynamics were talking about potentially doing this maybe months ago at this point. But here it is. This is essentially a new perk tree for max level characters in which after you reach level 50, you still can earn XP. And when you reach a certain point, just like leveling up to 50, you get champion levels. So you basically start at 0, 1, 2, I don't know what it's going to be. And then once you level up in the champion system, you can go in and choose perks that affect, like what you said, Christian, how your certain arrows maybe for Hawkeye affect damage, or perk activation stuff, how quickly your heroic charge, or how your heroics charge. So yeah, this is really good. I feel like it's somewhat of a reason for max level characters like my Iron Man to jump back in and be able to sort of finely tune what's going on with the characters. They didn't mention your characters being grandfathered into this, but I imagine that is probably behind the scenes happening. So like if I jump in with my Iron Man right now, who has earned XP after level 50, I'm sure that will equate to this system right now. At least I hope so.
I think that's interesting because I fully expect the opposite. I'm expecting, like, maybe, because I just don't know how they'd be tracking that. I know they track it on a level of you can get a trophy because of that, but
That's why I think they're tracking it.
sure, yeah. I just don't know how that would net out to what you get. Because, right, like, they're doing a detailed stream about this later today, but I just don't know how they would, like, is it a every level you progress? Like, how much XP is it required to get a skill point? How many skill points do you need to buy a skill thing? Because, like, if this is meant to keep players who really love the game around longer, and someone like you or me who earned 250 character levels basically off of one character, um, how does that net out, right? Like, if they gave you whatever the exchange would be in terms of new skill points for this new tree, would you just have like enough to get every skill immediately? Like, I don't know how they would do that, because I'm sure there's probably someone out there who would be able to do that if they do allow that transfer. And I think that would kind of just negate the point of this new progression system.
I think it would be more of a challenge. I would have to imagine, like, they recently patched getting to 50. It used to be like you could do it in an hour, and now it takes a little bit longer because it was just people were getting to it quickly. I have to imagine this would require more time and effort to level up. And to me, it seems like XP is just being converted into this new system, where is this essentially acting like Destiny's light system?
No, so
Like
like
what Destiny has a similar system, right?
it's slightly different in Destiny. So
Okay,
Destiny, the light system has a cap, and that's basically like the power level in Avengers,
gotcha.
where they've talked about bumping power level to 160 here. Destiny usually goes up with every expansion.
Hmm.
Like launch Destiny 2, I think the power level cap was 200. Right now it's like 1400, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So what Destiny has is slightly different from this. I've heard it directly, this Avengers system directly compared to the Paragon system in Diablo, which I'm not super familiar with Diablo, but it's much more similar to this. What Destiny does is they have their seasonal stuff, and you can progress in. It's like a battle pass. Like that's how they allow you to earn XP in Destiny after you hit cap. And for the straight level cap, every time you earn in Destiny a new level, you get a either a bright engram or something like that, which just allows you to get something from the marketplace in a random drop. So
Gotcha.
that's how they net out their post level 50 progression equivalent in Destiny. Diablo, it sounds like, is much more in line with this, where you are unlocking stuff to make your character just more powerful, which I kind of love. Like, I've fallen back on Thor recently to the point where he's probably my main again. Um, and seeing this, like, I just think it's going to be very fun to play the game as my already strong Thor and use this new system to just make him the god he's meant to be. I think that's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, because people have had issues with your heroes not feeling like superheroes by the
Mm-hmm.
once you get to level 50. They just feel somewhat stronger and they just have more abilities with like different takedowns or stats affecting certain things, but they don't feel like superheroes. I feel like this system isn't like this gargantuan thing that it's not going to give you like crazy new perks, but it will allow you to, if I want to quickly have my heroics ready to go, this will allow me to keep leveling up and increasing the rate of the recharge,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, putting points into things like that that affect the statistics of your character, which I think
Yeah,
is great.
like, we don't know the extent of it, right? But imagine you'd be able to reach a point where Iron Man's overcharge ability only takes like 10 seconds to recharge. I
Yeah,
doubt it would be that dramatic, but imagine if you just put so much time in. Come time for the raid, you're basically constantly in overcharge mode. Imagine how fun that would be.
yeah. And you mentioned the raid, and we'll talk about Hero Catalyst very soon. But to me, this and like the level 50 change that they just implemented, like maybe a month or two ago, this
Mm-hmm.
to me strikes as, hey, we're gearing up for something that's happening very
Yes.
soon. And because like it's we're beating a dead horse, but like obviously there's not a lot of multiplayer in this game. There's really no incentive, but this is more of an incentive for you to get in and mess around with your characters in a way to make them ready for the hopefully max level content that will be coming, hopefully with the War for Wakanda. And this is a way to sort of tune up your characters and make them act how you want to when you're going into the very challenging content that is coming up.
Yeah, I think this also introduces another maybe problem for the raid, which would be just like balancing, right?
Mm,
Because, like, say you have somebody who hit 150 or 5150 with their character, right? And they don't go in on the skill tree at all. How adversely affected are they going to be in a raid scenario versus someone like you or me who is probably going to max out our main Iron Man and Thor for the raid, right? Like, how is that going to net out? I think that's another thing they'll probably have to take into account. Um, but you mentioned also just like showing of a sign of like the future of the game. I think this is also great because gear sucks, right? Gear's just whatever in this game. It feels like it's barely there.
right.
This is something that's great because it will translate, I believe, to whatever the new gear system is. Because right now there are gear perks that will boost things like your heroic damage, your main stats of like range, melee, heroic, and defense, right? There's gear that does that, but if you're doing it on a permanent level with the post level 50 stuff, that will translate to whatever the new gear system is. So if the new gear system is just building on the same perks we have with the current gear system, this skill tree is still valid. If it's completely different, it's like, okay, the stuff that you were using gear to have perks of are also in this skill tree. So if they get rid of the way the gear worked in terms of boosting your stats, it's still here with this system, right? So I think no matter what, it's a good safety net and a good constant for the game with a future that is going to have a supposedly drastically get different gear system in year 2 or 3.
Do you think we get Gear 2.0 before the year one mark, or do you think that's a
Oh
whiles
God,
away?
no.
You think
I,
that's
I
a whiles
think
away?
I think it could still hit this year, maybe, but not before
Hmm.
year 1 is over.
Not in time for the raid.
I would love that, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't know the back end like develop. That seems like a vast overhaul. So you're probably right that that is going to take some time.
Hmm.
But that seems like another example of we're changing how this game works to prepare for the inevitable future of what we want this game to be with the Black Panther raid and more raids coming after that. I would
Hmm.
have to imagine.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're probably right. That will probably take a decent amount of time and effort to get that ready because that will completely change how like a good portion of the game works.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm hopeful, right? I think this is just a net good for the game. And regardless, it's going to incentivize me to hop back into the game to do like dailies, pick up those shield challenges again because I haven't done that in a while. But overall, I think this is a very good thing for the game, and I'm surprised it's coming so soon.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I'm excited to see like they tease a little bit what the boosts actually are, and I'm just excited to see the specifics of how we'll be affecting our characters. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this.
yeah, man, if I can just get this, even if it's just like a 3% increase to the size, like the radius of my Bifrost ability, I'll take it. Just like let me burn more things, like
Oh
just
yeah,
just give me all the power.
and it's one of those things that the developers have been talking about where they want to give players more choice, and this is just definitely one of those systems where they're adding like a ton of new perks that will allow further customization of how your character wants to play. And
Yeah.
there's a decent amount like this. The skill trees in the game right now are really good, and they offer some variety. I don't think they're the best per se. I think they do offer decent variety in terms of how you want your characters to play.
Hmm.
I think a lot of it comes down to gear though at some points. But I think this is a good way, like what you're saying. When the eventual Gear 2.0 comes out, this will be ready for that. So yeah, this is cool.
Hmm. We do have a bit of an insight. I wanted to check a grid of how many skill points there are, right?
Hmm.
Um, it's broken up into 4 sections of combat, tactical, utility, and defensive, and it looks like it's a 3 by 5 for each.
Hmm.
So that's 120 individual skill points, and this is from a fan, but it looks like champion level maxes out at 372 right now.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah. So we'll see how that goes. And I did pull that from Marvel's Avengers updates on Twitter. Very, very great Twitter account. I recommend following.
Yeah, totally.
But the other thing that's coming alongside this is hero catalysts. You mentioned this earlier. What hero catalysts are XP boosters that the way they're saying it is if you want these consistently, you're gonna have to buy them, but you will be given some free ones once in a while. Um, so Jack, how do the XP hero booster catalysts work
If you
necessarily?
ever played Call of Duty, this is double XP as far as I'm aware. Um, it's essentially you apply this to your character for it's probably for a certain amount of time, and then
Yeah.
you just earn more XP than you normally would. So this is good to for newer players like your friend who I believe jumped into this game recently,
Mhm.
or our friend Kevin Diaz. If we wanted to play the raid and he wanted to play the raid and he hadn't played the game for quite some time, um, if there was a booster or a heroes catalyst available either for free or for purchase if he wanted to, he could apply that, grind a little bit, get his character up to parity with us, and then jump into the raid. Um, so this it's a small thing, but a lot of games have this. I think Apex does. Call of Duty, Battlefield has straight up shortcuts where after like months after the game, if you want to like for Battlefield 5, that was just released on PSN for PS Plus, and if I wanted to fully upgrade the assault kit, I could buy a shortcut and then just be ready to go because it's been months after it released.
Yeah.
So somewhat similar to that. This is probably more akin to a double XP weekend in Call of Duty.
Yes. Shocker. This is also in Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it works in Destiny, I really love, and I hope it would operate in a similar way here, where I think you can, with Destiny's equivalent of like the green currency in this game, um, you can buy a little token that if you pop it, it lasts for I think 2 hours, and it's an XP booster. I don't know what the percentage increase is, but it is an XP booster, and if you are playing with a fire team, right? So like you and up to two other people, um, and one of you pops one of these things, it will be applicable to the whole squad for that entire duration. And
Right.
again, I think if they want to incentivize multiplayer and squad based stuff, and they did say these are a great way that if you're trying to level up with friends, do this. If you're trying to level up a new character with a friend who's new to the game and you're a veteran, good way to net things out. I do think it would be really great if you could like not stack, but like let's say me and my friend we're gonna spend like 6 hours one Saturday playing this game. If it lasts for two, I'll pop mine. It's working for both of us. After that, he pops his. Then it's working for both of us. I think that'd be great. I don't know if we have details on that right now, but that's how it works in Destiny. I think it will work well here. And I think that would also help to avoid the criticism I'm sure will happen of uh, echoing the Assassin's Creed Odyssey XP boosters, which, if you're unfamiliar with that, Assassin's Creed Odyssey was a single player game that had a very steep difficulty level grind curve late game, and there were XP boosters in the game to shorten that grind, and people were mad about that because there's XP boosters in a $60 game. This is a $60 game. It's going to have XP boosters with the catalysts, and we don't know how much they're going to cost, but I could hear a world where people are upset at that as well. Again, I think it's picking and choosing your battles of like, hey, I would rather that be the charge and then get the free big content for free. But I don't know if you feel differently about paying for XP boosters in this game. But
Um, it's. I mean, I probably won't do it. I don't think I just like being able to upgrade stuff. It's fine being there. Like Battlefield, like I mentioned, has a whole. You could unlock like all the guns if you wanted to play. If you wanted to pay enough money. Is that a good thing? I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but it's there if someone wants to do that, and it's completely optional. And this is a much smaller scale. Which this is just double XP or whatever it ends up being. And I can't imagine that being too expensive. Either way, though, it's optional. Just like the skins, I'm not really bothered too much by the skins being behind a paywall. Some of them I think should be earnable. But I think these will be earnable, I'm sure, or they'll just give them out like, hey, this weekend everyone has hero catalysts applied to their heroes. Go level up your heroes. I'm sure that will happen. So it's not a big deal to me.
yeah, I'm with you. So overall, though, that is the big update for what's hitting the game this month on the 20th and painting a picture of what the next couple months looks like, I think. And it seems pretty clear. Both of us seem pretty positive on this stuff. I think nothing here is a negative. I think all this stuff is just a net good for the game and makes me hopeful about the rest of this year.
Yeah, me too.
Nice. So, again, there will be a dev stream later today detailing this a little more. I typically don't watch the dev streams. I just like to read recaps over the weekend, but I might watch it this week just to see because I am curious of the extent of what these upgrades are like. So we will report back, of course, next week. But yeah, overall, surprising to say, I think good week for Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah, I agree.
So, meanwhile, Marvel on the big screen and small screen is having a bit of a news week. First up, Entertainment Weekly was doing a recap about some Marvel stuff recently, and in their reporting, they said that Marvel What If is hitting in August on Disney Plus. So,
Hell yeah.
makes sense, you know? I think it just fills in the timeline of releases. There was a hole in August. It would make sense to throw this there. So
Yeah, because we got Black Widow in July, and then I would have to imagine this is released weekly because it is like a TV show, right?
yeah, and that's something I was gonna ask you. Like, I know both of us are on record on this show saying we enjoy the week to week release. I feel like What If is an exception where I feel like they could just drop all these at once.
Yeah, that's a possibility because I would have to imagine there's no continuity in between each. I think it is more scenario based, obviously, so that's a possibility. I still would like I'm sure you would too. I still would like the week by week format for this one, just
Yeah.
having like a wholly new experience in August throughout the weeks would be cool. But yeah, it does, like what you mentioned, it does sort of pad out that schedule from Black Widow in July, and now What If in August, and then Shang-Chi in September. So yeah, good placement.
Absolutely. And you mentioned not building, right? But I've seen a poster that has like, the T'Challa Star Lord and Captain Britain with Peggy Carter. Like, what if this does build to a point where we get like a mini Avengers sort of thing with all of them? That'd be really cool.
Yeah. That would be cool. Like it
I
all
never
takes
even
place
considered that.
in the same alternate universe, maybe.
Yeah.
Mm. Or maybe I don't know. Well, I can see a world. I know what you're talking about. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's out there, but like how long are you expecting these to be? Like I could see them be anywhere from like 6 minutes to like maybe 40. I don't know. This is a huge wild card for me.
I This gives me really big Clone Wars vibes for whatever reason, or Bad Batch vibes.
Okay.
I imagine like 20-ish minutes for each episode.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, now that you mentioned like shorter, maybe like YouTube length videos for this, that could also be a possibility. Where like obviously this isn't a big focus for Marvel. It is sort of more of a fluff, fun thing. So yeah, I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be that long of a project, but I was expecting like, cartoon 20-minute length episodes.
Sure, yeah, that's the safe bet. And I think when I said I could see them dropping them all in one day, that's these things are 6 minutes long thought I
Totally.
have in my head, but
Yeah.
we shall see. Uh, you know what else happened this week that I chuckled at, but we did talk about the Fantastic Four recently.
Mm-hmm.
Emily Blunt was having a little conversation recently, and she addressed the idea that she's the only choice to play Sue Storm in the Marvel MCU Fantastic Four. Did you hear what she had to say about this?
I did. I'm pretty sure she said, I'm paraphrasing, but she was like, it's not that I'm above them, but I just don't like superhero films. I never have. So I can't really see myself doing that.
Yep. So I really like Emily Blunt. I think she's very talented at her
Totally.
craft. I wasn't locked in on her being Sue Storm. Like it would have been that was a good fan casting. I think the two of them, but like I think we could find better Sue Storms. I don't know how you feel about this, but
Yeah, I mean, if she's not passionate about the project, then she's not the right fit. And she said she doesn't like them. So it's good in a way that she's not accepting this role just for the paycheck, which is good. And at first I was like, oh, it. She was like, I'm not above it. And it's like, it kind of seems like you are. But at the same point, she said like she doesn't like doing those types of projects. So yeah, I think that's a genuine response, and it's very honest because I'm sure there are a lot of people, a lot of actors out there who would want to do a role like this simply for the paycheck, right? Because it's there, and you're going to be paid a lot of money.
mm-hmm.
And she is there saying she doesn't necessarily want to do that. She didn't say it was because of the money, but she's certainly turning down an opportunity to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Something admirable about that, and she was quite honest. So good for her. She doesn't, need to do superhero movies. I appreciate the honesty. Or maybe she is straight up trolling everyone. She's gonna be like, I'm just kidding. I love Captain Marvel. I'm so excited to be part of the MCU. That's probably not going to happen.
What I think would be even funnier though is if she says this and then her husband
Oh, yeah.
comes out as being like, "So excited to join the MCU, guys!" Like, because I just think the fact that John Krasinski, wasn't he the first choice for Cap and he turned it down?
I don't know if he turned it down, but he was certainly in the running for Captain
Yeah.
America.
So like, you have to imagine Marvel has him in their back pocket of like
yeah.
ideas for future characters, right?
There's been
So
phone
like,
calls.
yeah, there has to have been. Like maybe not Mr. Fantastic because we're a Rahu Kohli group.
Oh, yeah. Rahul or no one.
Exactly. But like the truck backing up is out on my end, sorry. um like maybe Scott Summers or something. Like I don't know. I think it would be funny if she's out here vocally being like, I don't like him, and then has to get dragged to like red carpet premieres of the next Marvel movie because her husband's in it. I think that'd be
awkward.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
So, but for fans who wanted her, sorry, not happening. I would be surprised. Another Marvel project got a new insight this week, Jack. I don't know if you saw this, but there's a trailer for Venom: Let There Be Carnage.
Oh, I saw it.
Now, refresh my memory. Are you a fan of Venom?
No. Absolutely not. In fact, I hate that movie.
Really?
Oh, yeah, dude. I always tell the story of I went to see it when I was studying
yeah.
abroad, and then a light fixture fell in the row in front of me right before the movie started playing, and I was like, this is an omen. Should not be here right now. And yeah, it was a god-awful movie. It was terrible. Made a lot of money, though. So there's a sequel.
Yeah. So, I saw Venom with a friend of the show, Omar Nakvi. We saw it together, had a blast.
I was going to say, I bet Omar loves that movie.
Oh yeah, that was an incredible experience. Like the two most recent movies I saw with Omar, because like Omar's a great movie going friend, right?
Oh, yeah.
Venom and Hobbs and Shaw. Those are the last two movies we saw together.
Oh, that's great.
But dude, yeah, Venom I think is a real fun, stupid movie. It's a stupid movie, but I really enjoyed it.
That's fair.
Like, it's a 7, being like generous, but it
That's
earned that
generous.
7. But it earned that 7, I think, with just the ridiculousness of it.
I love the lobster tank scene. That's my favorite scene.
Oh, I know you're being facetious, but I genuinely love that so much. It's so funny.
Here's the thing. I love Tom Hardy, and I want to see him grow with that role.
Yeah.
Didn't like the first one. I was blown away. I was Googling about Let There Be Carnage before the trailer because I was like, what the hell is going on with this movie? Directed by Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
What? That has me so intrigued now.
Did you ever see his Jungle Book?
No, I saw Jon Favreau's Jungle Book, I believe.
Okay.
Wait, which was Andy Serkis's? Was that the more mature one?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't see that one. I saw the Disney one.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I think that's very interesting. Venom 1 was directed by the Zombieland guy, I think. This is, again, Andy Serkis, who I can guarantee you visually, I'm sure it's going to be a step up over the first Venom, which I thought was fine. But, Andy Serkis with his background of performance capture, I bet it's going to be great. And I think the visuals of the trailer, again, it's definitely still early, but I think they look better than some of the visuals at the early Venom 1 trailers, personally.
Yeah, I don't know. I still get the same tone from this trailer as the first movie. I'm interested in Woody Harrelson as Carnage, at least.
Yeah.
They ditched the silly wig at the end of that movie. So I will 100% see this in theaters, Christian. I'll tell you that right now. If it's safe to do so, which I think it's coming out later this year, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be there. You ever sit in a theater and be like, oh, I forget what I'm seeing. What am I seeing? And then you think about it, and it's like, oh, man, I wish it was a different movie. That's going to be this movie for me.
Sure, I feel that. But, think about it. They're probably going to get that wonderful Eminem song back for the credits.
What was that? Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, that Marshall Mathers Venom rap.
Yeah. That was
Hell
something.
yeah. It's such a fucking weird thing, dude. I'm
I
so glad this movie exists.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Now, do, does this exist in a pre-existing Spider-Man universe, do you think? I've seen a lot of speculation that people might think this exists in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Verse.
I think I talked about this because we definitely have talked about Venom in the run of Excelsior at one point, I think.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I remember talking to you and saying, like, I could see a world where they bring Andrew Garfield back because, there's that weird division. I think it would be really cool if, because Andrew Garfield was kind of screwed out of a third movie for his Spider-Man story, because I think he's a great Spider-Man, like,
I
and
do too.
Venom was super successful. Like, maybe he's not the main character, but if Spider-Man should exist in a universe with Venom, and if it can't be Tom Holland, I think Andrew Garfield would be fantastic for these movies.
Yeah. I think. Hmm, I don't know if they'll ever do that with. I know you've been talking about like Andrew Garfield, like give him a second shot, which I would totally
Yeah,
be down for. I think he's a great Spider-Man. Wholeheartedly agree. I just don't. I don't know if I'll. I don't know if I'd see that
sure.
actually happening. But if they do that, I think that would make sense. Isn't this technically in the MCU though? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, so that was another thing I wanted to bring up. I saw an interview with Tom Holland and his brother, right?
Was it
His younger
Harry
brother.
Holland?
It was. And I don't know if it was a fan question or what. I saw a clip out of it on TikTok, but somebody said to the two of them, they were like, "Hey, do you think it would be cool if at some point in the future your Spider-Man crossed over with Venom?" And then his brother did a little like smirk and then he put his like hand over his mouth and chin like thinking, and then Tom Holland was silent and he was like, "For legal reasons I can't answer that," or something like that. So like again, I think he's just that it feels inevitable, if
Yeah.
freaking Michael Keaton's in Morbius,
Ugh.
if that is getting connected, Tom Hardy should absolutely be connected, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Like it would because it would be weird if they release a Morbius, like what you said, Morbius movie that is connected to the MCU, but Venom is its own thing, which I don't think. I think they're trying to build a universe with these Spider-Man movies that don't have Spider-Man in them yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is probably in the MCU now that you're saying that.
And you know what? Jack, bookmark this, staple this, write this down, remember this, okay?
Okay.
I guarantee you, I think these will be canon with the
Mm-hmm.
MCU, for better or worse. Uh, I think the way it's going to be explained, we'll just retcon it. Venom 1 and Venom 2, and maybe Morbius, they take place during the blip.
Huh.
And then, when Spider Man comes back, that's why there's no Spider Man. Venom has no idea who the hell Spider Man is in Venom 1. Because he's snapped, he's dusted, you know?
Mm,
And it's taking place in SF, you know? Why is Ant Man not there in the first one? He was in the quantum realm, you know? So,
sure. That so I like that on paper,
mhm.
but like the world went to complete shit during the
No,
blip.
yes, yeah.
So there would be a lot of it. There's so many cars that were just like, oh, I can't move all these cars, you know. But I do like where your head's at. I do
Yeah,
like where your head's at.
yeah. And they could easily just retcon it, you know? They could just be like, oh, yeah, so, yeah, people were just okay there in that area of the city. They were just fine. They were dealing with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Or also, Peter Parker. He's a teenager. He's in New York. He can't get a plane ticket to San Francisco.
no, exactly, yeah. You know? I know we're in a globalized world and Eddie Brock is a reporter on the internet, but, like, um, he doesn't know. You know,
Yeah.
he's in San Francisco. It's like 12 hours away.
Yeah. And of course, there was a globe-trotting movie called Spider-Man: Far From Home. So I guess I am
Hmm.
eating my words. But
Hmm.
that's the thing. Like, I feel like Venom is small time, small potatoes.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think it's inevitable, but
Sure.
uh, one last thing I want to throw out there. I saw this happen this week as well. James Gunn, he's doing his Guardians of the Galaxy updates recently. Dave Bautista also making some comments about Drax. Last week we talked about I guess Drax and Mantis, he wanted a spin-off, and Disney was like, I don't know. So Dave Bautista is saying that he wants Drax to have a future in the MCU, but he doesn't want to be part of it. Or he wants Drax to continue without him because he thinks he's getting too old, I think. And he, like, I don't know if he was joking, but he was like, oh, I'm going to be a little flabby by the time we do another Drax thing. So, like, how would you feel about a future of the MCU with Drax sans Batista?
That makes me sad. It seems inevitable, obviously. And it also makes me think that Guardians 3, like what we were talking about last week, will probably be the last movie for Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
A bit of a send off, and like it will be for a lot of actors. And I think Dave Bautista and a lot of the Guardians are very close with James Gunn because
Yeah.
that's he just ingratiates himself with his actors, which is something not a lot of directors do in Hollywood. But James Gunn is one of those directors, and obviously when everything was happening with him when he was canned briefly, in the grand scheme of things, all the Guardians signed something in support of James Gunn. So I don't think Dave Bautista wants to be a Guardian without James Gunn. So that seems appropriate for Dave Bautista. It also makes me sad because I'm going to sound like a hipster, but when I was watching the WWE circa 2007, Batista was my favorite, doing the Batista bombs left and right. Loved it. So I just love Dave Bautista. I'm really glad that he has found great success as an actor, which is funny because the WWE pipeline to actorhood is like the percentage is very low for, you get like John Cena, The Rock, and now Batista.
And Sasha Banks in The Mandalorian.
Very true. Good point. So I really appreciate it, and yeah, it does make me sad though. It does make me sad.
Yeah, Batista was before my time. Well, because I watched WWE in high school, right? He popped up like once, and I was like, "Hey, Drax." I do hope that before he gets his send off, I don't know if he's done this yet, but let Drax do a Batista bomb. You know,
Oh yeah,
like
dude.
in Fast Five, The Rock gets to rock bottom people. You know, so like
No
just
way.
what, just yeah, dude. So
That's
like
so
just let him do
cool.
it. It would be cool. I think that'd be very cool as just a fun little Batista thing. Personally, I'd rather them just kill Drax off. I think Batista is the reason I like Drax so much. Like, remember there was the thing that originally Jason Momoa was going to be Drax?
Right.
I think about that now, and I kind of hate that. And I think Jason Momoa is good. I like him in Aquaman, but like
Totally.
him as I just like that's not a thing I see, and just like the energy Batista brings to Drax, I think is just so good that like at that point just have a different character on the team. I think, which does make me sad, and I think your reasoning is absolutely correct because he was the most outspoken one I think at the time
Yep.
when James Gunn was canned.
I'm
But
pretty sure he was like, if he doesn't come back, then I won't.
yeah, he was cursing out Disney a fair
Yep.
amount on Twitter and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that honestly is going to be the most upsetting for me in hindsight, if this is the end of Drax, is like, really wish he was the one that got to kill Thanos. Just like
Do you?
one of the times at least.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
You
Yeah,
know?
I always like his plight was always very secondary to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I guess you're right though. That would have fit with this character. I'm sure he was
Yeah.
very upset about that.
Oh, I'm sure. I think he's talked about it because in the comics, like, he's Drax the Destroyer because he was made to kill Thanos. So, like,
Yeah.
that was definitely brushed aside. There's the one-handed line in the end of Guardians 1 where he's like, it's Thanos I have to kill. Um,
Right.
and that just kind of got thrown away, which, like, understandable. I understand the way it went, but, like, maybe you kept him alive out of the Guardians with Rocket, and then they go up to space and he just, like, has him in a chokehold, and then Thor kills him. Like, something like that. That would have been real nice for him, especially if he's not going to be with the MC too much longer, but
Sure. I think the Guardians will all get a big payoff in Guardians 3.
I bet you're right. Yeah, I think like I said last week, I would be surprised if more than a third of them stick around for the future. So
Yeah, and that makes me so sad. I love the Guardians, dude, and I
I
know
know.
you do too. I think it's even more so special for you. That's gonna be so sad.
Yeah, dude. For some reason, Chris Pratt is very expensive. I'm sure they're gonna be happy to end that contract at some point.
Get
Like
another Chris.
sure, yeah. So
Also, I feel like the public sentiment around Chris Pratt has declined very sharply recently,
yeah,
and Disney is probably like, well, let's get ahead of that.
yeah. Chris Pine as Nova, Guardians rebooted.
I love Chris Pine.
He's a great. So
Also, like, where the hell's Jack Black? Get him in the MCU.
yeah, yeah, man.
He
Well,
would
didn't
be
he
a
just
great
retire?
Guardian. Did he retire?
Yeah,
No.
I thought he retired from acting.
Oh no. The
But
Kung Fu Panda himself?
I I think it's very funny you bring up Jack Black because again I saw a TikTok where someone was like you could have replaced Jack Black in any Chris Pratt role and it would have
Yeah.
been better.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not gonna die on the Chris Pratt hill, but I think he's been great in anything I've seen him in.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm not really with everyone on that. I understand why people feel that way,
Yeah.
because of his political opinions. But he's been very smartly quiet about.
Yeah.
He's not outspoken at all. People have seen him in like Gadsden flag shirts and they're like, oh, he's a conservative, but I've never heard him publicly say anything because he's been very quiet.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just the fact that he's like not saying things to like say otherwise, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
Chris, like, but he's a great Star Lord. So
Sure.
that does it for everything with Marvel this week. Next week we'll be back with, I think we'll have Red Room impressions by then because it launches on the 20th, and next week is the 21st for Friday. So
Oh, excellent.
look forward to those. But in the meantime, Jack, where can everybody find you?
Sure, you can follow me on Twitter at FascinatedJack, and Christian, myself, and our friends Kevin and Omar. We mentioned them both this podcast earlier. We do a podcast called The Long Play Club. Currently, we are going through Metal Gear Solid 4, and by the time you're listening to this on Monday, we will have finished Metal Gear Solid 4 for The Long Play Club. So you can check out our impressions on youtube.com/joyclicks or on podcast services of your choice. We are next playing Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, which pretty sure for all of us is a new experience in some way or another. So that's exciting. What about you, Christian?
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Chun2D2. Like Jack said, the Long Play Club as well. Gamescast and Jedi Knights are also available on youtube.com/joyclicks under their podcast playlists, as well as this show. If you want the video version, you can check it out there under the Excelsior playlist. And if you want to check out the audio version, you can on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or your service of choice. Just look up Excelsior or Avengers podcast. You will find it. And if you want to leave a review or a little 5-star rating for enjoying the show, it would be greatly appreciated because it helps us out a ton. And if you want to support the show and every show even further, patreon.com/joyclicks at the $1 and $5 tiers. $5 tier gets you producer credit on this show and every show, like Chris Ackes and Aaron Easton. So thank you very much. And I think that will do it for this week. Also, I'll shout this out because I don't know if you've said it on this show, Jack. You're writing for Screen Rant now. I saw you post your little Avengers article, which I read a recap of before the show. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for shouting that out. Yeah, I'm doing some freelance game news writing for them, and they've been letting me stay on brand. I've been writing about Apex Legends occasionally. Got a couple articles about Marvel's Avengers, which you can check out if you just go on Screen Rant and go to the game news section. You might see my name around there from now on. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, check it out. But that will do it for this week. So until next time, Excelsior.
Excelsior.